Bruce Dern and Clark Gable were known as MGM's Golden Boys. They worked in the same studio, were both successful, and even took each other's bodies to the grave. But there was one event that almost ended their friendship for good. During the war, all the big names in Hollywood were expected to serve their country. That day, Taylor saw something that made him hate the man everyone called king. The story was kept secret for many years because it would have hurt Gable's image. But finally, the truth about what happened was told, and it changed everything people thought they knew. Spangler Arlington Brew was born in Philly, Nebraska on August 5, 1911. Philly is a small farming town. From the beginning, just the name was hard. It came from his farmer father, Spangler Andrew Bugg, who later became an osteopath. The teachers at his school had trouble pronouncing his name, so they often called him Arlington or Arlie instead of saying the whole thing. It was even harder for him during World War I because it sounded German. Kids would tease him, and he often felt like he didn't belong. His mom gave him that name to honor a distant cousin, but it made things harder for him when he was young. His first love was music. Professor Herbert E. Gray taught him Lincoln at Beatrice High School, where he learned how to be a good sketch artist. Gray saw something great in him and pushed him to become a classical musician. Taylor also wished to become a doctor like his dad. He signed up to go to Don College in Cree, Nebraska. Plans to go down a road before becoming a doctor. He played in a singing trio on KMMJ radio in Clay Center for 2 summers, making some extra money and getting better at performing. Gray thought he was good enough to play in big orchestras, so when Taylor started acting in college plays, he was furious. He was also very good at sports. In track and field at Beatrice High School, he set many records and became a hero in the area in the late 1920s. He was written about in media not only in Beatrice, but also in Lincoln and Omaha. He wasn't tied to just one event. He did very well in many of them, showing that he was naturally coordinated and determined. Colleges saw him and offered to pay for his education. Early workouts, tight diets, and a focus on winning would stay with him for the rest of his life. In later years, that same physical skill would help him do the exciting parts he became famous for. The most important turning point was when Professor Gray went to Pomona College in California to teach. In the early 1930s, Taylor went after him, a dangerous move for someone from a poor home. He planned to keep learning music and medicine in California, seeing it as a short stop before going back home. But Gray told him to take advantage of everything college had to offer. That meant the theater group, too. It was impossible to miss how good-looking he was and how natural he was on stage. He soon found himself in plays, which Gray thought would keep him from making music. An MGM talent scout saw Taylor in 1932 when he played Captain Stan Hope in a Pomona College production of Journey's End. The scout gave him a job offer that began at $35 a week. At first it wasn't much, but it turned into one of the best jobs in Hollywood. The first thing MGM did when they took over his picture was erase his birth name. Robert Taylor had taken the place of Spangler Arlington Braw. The choice was made by Louis B. Mayer and Ida Coverman without asking him. The new name was thought to be better, more American, and bring in more ticket sales. Taylor began to lose parts of himself after that. In the end, he thought about what was left of the boy from Nebraska. His good looks made him famous, but they also got him into trouble. His blue eyes, well-balanced face, and athletic build almost made him too good-looking. Men didn't like him because he was too pretty, and stories started to spread about his personal life. MGM paired him with older, stronger women like Greta Garbo and Barbara Stanwyck, which made rumors spread. Taylor didn't like the picture because he thought it shackled him. He wanted people to respect him for more than just his looks. MGM chose to change how he looked. The crowd roars when they cast him in tougher parts like Billy the Kid. The people who do makeup worked to make his face look rougher. He was shirtless, sweating, and often in bathing scenes in publicity pictures that showed him in rough situations. He was even taught new ways to walk, talk, and move. He was supposed to look like a tough guy, but it made his picture look even more fake in some ways. In the late 1930s, he was making $5,000 a week, up from $35 a week at the beginning. But there were some conditions attached to it. His deal with MGM was 25 years long, which was longer than any other star's at the time. The company chose all of his roles, which could be anything from romantic lead to action hero to Western star. He never turned down a part. People who worked in the business said that he was so loyal to MGM that it made him boring to the press at times. Apart from the studio, he also had to answer to his wife, which didn't leave him much freedom. Camille, which came out in 1936 and starred Greta Garbo, was his big break. He played Armand, the young guy who fell in love with Marguerite, her sad character. People who didn't like him said that he was better than expected in such a difficult job. The movie made $242,000 and showed that he could play complicated roles. At first, Garbo thought he was inexperienced, but she came to value how hard he worked. After Camille, people finally saw that Robert Taylor was more than just a pretty face. It was one of the best love movies of its time. Everyone in Hollywood talked about Barbara Stanwyck's wedding to Robert Taylor on May 14, 1939. Even though they were only 3 years apart in age, it was enough to make everyone on the studio lot talk. People in the business often said that Barbara was too old to be a main lady at age 31. Taylor, a good-looking boy from a small town in Nebraska, was 28 years old. He had become MGM's ideal hero. Barbara was known as a strong, independent star who had been married before and owned her own land. Taylor, on the other hand, was still getting used to Hollywood. It wasn't just about how old they were. It had to do with who was in charge. Some joked that she was stealing from the crib. Some people even said she was like a mother to him. She had made a lot more money than he did, and was known for movies like Babyface that were risky. The relationship switched roles, which made it impossible not to talk about at every party in town. There was nothing real about the wedding itself. Louis B. Mayer, the boss of MGM, didn't just support the event. He asked for it. His order was to marry Taylor, which he did. He then watched over the whole event. They were so afraid of the number 13 that they didn't say their vows in San Diego until just after midnight. The real names of the two of them were Ruby Catherine Stevens and Spangler Arlington Brew. Marie Marks, Zippo Marks's wife, and the person who set up their blind date, stood as matron of honor to keep things quiet. Taylor's family wasn't there, so a best man chosen by the studio stood in for them. The day wasn't driven by love. It was a way to fix things. MGM needed a perfect straight marriage between the two stars to stop talk about them. Mayer even got media together in Beverly Hills to make the announcement. The whole thing seemed planned, and people inside the studio laughed at how clear their plan was. 7 years before she got married to Taylor. On February 5, 1932, Barbara took in a boy named Anthony Dion Fay. Her first marriage to Frank Fay was having a hard time, and she thought that having a child would help. While they were married, she had care of Tony, but they never became close. Being left alone as a child had left her with deep wounds, and she didn't seem to be able to show him love. Tony was only 7 years old when Taylor joined the family. The boy's dad didn't pay much attention to him, and his mother treated him like he wasn't there. She didn't talk about him at all and kept his picture hidden in her closet. The gap between them grew as he got older. He tried to visit her while she was dying, but she wouldn't let him in. Tony was told by her brother to forget that she was his mother. In her will, she didn't leave him anything. Tony died in 2006, but he was still hoping for a link that would come. Taylor's own actions caused a lot of trouble. He started seeing Lana Turner in 1941 while he was making the movie Johnny Eager. His friends thought he was crazy about her and had to be with her, even if it was just once. Barbara was so shocked when she found out that she allegedly tried to kill herself. But this was the latest in a long line of betrayals. While making Quo Vadis in Rome in 1950, Taylor publicly dated an Italian extra named Lea DeLeo. He wasn't trying to hide the fact that they were dating when he was seen leaving the house. Barbara felt a huge amount of shame. He seemed to want her to ask for a divorce, which she did. She flew to Rome to talk to him about it. For 6 weeks, they pretended to be happy for the cameras while they quietly worked out how to end their marriage. When she finally told him she wanted a divorce, he agreed right away, which shocked her. At that point, she understood that his affairs were a plan to get her to give up. Everyone was shocked when Taylor made a choice in February 1943. He was 32 years old, which was way too old to be in the draft. He was married, could help with the war effort at home, and didn't have to serve because the law said he couldn't. Studios wanted their stars to stay in the United States, sell war bonds, and be in movies that were patriotic. But on February 9, 1943, Taylor joined the U.S. Army. Naval Air with his real name. He only stayed away long enough to finish shooting Song of Russia. In August, he went back to work. The Navy was happy to have him, but they quickly told him he was too old to fight. As a junior lieutenant, he was sent to train pilots instead of going to war abroad. It hurt. He wanted to fight on the front lines, but his orders told him to stay in the United States. Still, he was one of the best in his class. On January 11, 1944, he got his wings and came in 5th in teacher training. His 17 films for the Navy that he made between 1943 and 1945 had the most lasting effect on people. These were not just marketing videos. They were carefully made training aids that went over everything from the basics of flight to how to fight. Pilots learned how to control the Stearman N-2S spy plane in the movie Flight Sense. To keep the lessons interesting, he even added some fun. Many people, including the New York Times, liked how he read the 1944 documentary The Fighting Lady. Why was this work even more impressive? Taylor had never flown a combat plane before he joined. He started from scratch, trained hard in New Orleans, and learned how to teach and fly. He was known at the Naval Air Station in Livermore, California, for breaking down hard ideas into easy-to-understand steps that stuck with his students. By February 1951, Barbara Stanwyck had filed for divorce from Robert Taylor in court. Their marriage, which had been seen as one of the strongest in Hollywood, was over. They had been together for 12 years. As a bluff, the move shocked the business world. He began dating Italian actress Lea DeLeo while he was shooting Quotas in Rome in 1950. Their relationship became very public. Stanwyck flew to talk to him and told him she was going to divorce her if he didn't come back to her. He agreed instead without any doubt. The terms of the loan were bad for him. She got 15% of his gross income until she got married again or died. She never got married again and kept all of the cents. Her adopted son, Tony Dion, was also kept by her, and Taylor had nothing to do with the boy. In the same year, Taylor got a part that would change his career for good. Westward. The Women was a Western that cost $2.2 million and was directed by William A. Wellman. It was about a wagon master who took 150 women from Chicago to California to marry farmers. The movie made almost $4 million around the world, and it showed that he could do more than just play good-looking love leads. He played a tough, determined character that was very different from the smooth parts he had played before. The movie hit me in ways I didn't expect. After many years, a Spanish town that saw the movie and was moved by it organized its own caravan of women, which led to 33 marriages. He went back to Rome the same year for Quotas, which was MGM's most expensive movie to that point. It had an amazing 32,000 outfits, and a young Sophia Loren was even in it as an extra. Deborah Kerr and Taylor played Marcus Vinicius. With $1,143 million in ticket sales in the U.S. and Canada, and $9.94 million in other countries, the movie saved MGM's finances. It was the most successful movie of 1951, and proved that Taylor was more than just a love lead. But his relationship with MGM was not simple. He had been under contract since 1933. By the late 1950s, he was the only big star from the studio's golden age who was still bound by a contract. For years, Louis B. Mayer, the boss of the company, paid Taylor less than other big names because he wanted to keep him loyal and thankful. Late in the 1950s, Taylor started writing mostly westerns, which were his favorite type of movie. When his deal was up in 1958, he started Robert Taylor Productions. From 1959 to 1962, he was in The Detectives. He was still used by MGM, who brought him back for the 1963 Western Cattle King. Taylor met a young Elizabeth Taylor in the 1949 movie Conspirator. They were so far apart in age that some people thought they were a father and daughter on TV. She was only 16. He was nice to her, helping her with her homework and telling her how talented she was. They worked together again on Ivanhoe in 1952. She didn't like the movie, but it was one of MGM's biggest hits, making $11 million in rentals. In 1952, MGM set up a meeting between Taylor and Ursula Thez, a German actor. The Coconut Grove is where they met. She remembered that when he took her to the dance floor, she felt like she was in seventh heaven. But Taylor dated other people, even his ex-wife, because he was still wary after his split. Ursula finally told him what he had to do, and on May 23, 1954, they got married. There was a small wedding on a boat in Wyoming, and Ursula brought her 2 kids from her first marriage with her. Manuela and Michael were both changed by the hard times in Germany during the war. It was hard for them to get used to living in Hollywood, especially since Taylor had high standards. Over time, Michael's problems got worse, and when he was 18, he tried to poison his real father, George Thez. This was a shocking event. He was found guilty and given a year in a reformatory. After that, Taylor and Ursula had 2 children of their own, a son named Terrence in 1955 and a girl named Tessa in 1959. On a ranch in the San Fernando Valley, they built a warm house. Their friends said they were a loving pair. Tessa recalls her father as loving and fun, not cool and serious like people saw him on TV. Robert Taylor did something risky in 1959 that most Hollywood stars would have stayed away from. At a time when most artists thought it was beneath them, he went into TV. His friends were shocked by the move, but his show The Detectives showed him to be right. It started out as a 30-minute crime show on ABC and ran for 2 seasons. Then it moved to NBC, got longer, and was renamed Robert Taylor's Detectives. The show had 97 episodes, and Taylor played Captain Matt Holbrook, the tough and smart leader of a top police team. Artists like Adam West, who would later become Batman, worked on the show. Gene Roddenberry, who would later create Star Trek, even wrote stories for it. This wasn't just a new part for a movie star of his caliber. It was a brave move into a business that was changing. By 1966, there was another strange chance. A close friend, Ronald Reagan, was leaving Death Valley to run for governor. Taylor took over as host and sometimes actress after him. Taking over for a man who would go on to become president made the show funny and political at the same time. Reagan and Taylor were friends for a very long time, and when Taylor died, Reagan was the one who gave the speech. During Taylor's tenure, the show stayed strong, and he showed a strong dedication to TV at a time when not many movie stars did the same. It had been 8 years since Taylor quit MGM in 1958. This wasn't just any exit. His deal was the longest in Hollywood history, lasting 24 years. He got his first job when he was only 23 years old in 1934 and made only $35 a week. He worked with famous people like Greta Garbo, Clark Gable, Spencer Tracy, and Elizabeth Taylor, and made $5,000 a week by 1940. Before he left, he was in more than 80 movies. It was the end of an age when actors would always work for the same studio. Once MGM was over, the work was steady but often let down. Taylor later said that he wasn't happy with some of the movies he made during this time. Now that the big studio roles were gone, he took whatever was offered. There were still good parts, like Party Girl, his last MGM movie, which came out in 1958. It was clear that things had changed, though. Without the studio's help, he had to change. That change drew him more into TV, where his part as a detective became a defining one. Behind the scenes, a habit that had been going on for a long time was already hurting. Since he was a kid, Taylor had smoked 3 packs a day, which is more than 60 cigarettes every day for decades. By spring 1968, when he was 57, he was getting tired and short of breath. He thought it was just old age or too much work, but his shortness of breath kept getting worse until he finally went to the doctor. The truth was very sad. It was lung cancer, which was probably caused by him smoking a lot. People first thought he had valley fever, but Taylor told them the truth in a cool voice. "Oh, sure, it's cancer. All right, lung cancer." On October 8, 1968, he had cobalt radiation and then major surgery to remove his right lung. Surprisingly, he kept smoking right up until the surgery. He was still addicted even after being told what was wrong. He kept working, which is crazy. His attention stayed on Death Valley days. Ronald Reagan moved into politics, but Taylor was still acting on TV and movies while he was fighting for his life. He filmed as much as he could while he was in the hospital and getting treatment. He even acted in some scenes. Even though it hurt him a lot, the strength he showed during this time was amazing. Then, in May 1969, another terrible thing happened to the family. Taylor's stepson, Michael T.H., who was only 23, died in his Los Angeles flat from taking too many drugs. This took place only 2 weeks before Taylor died. Tiffany Thieves, Taylor's wife, had a son named Michael from a previous marriage, but Taylor treated him like he was his own. It was terrible to lose twice. Taylor and Michael were buried next to each other. Robert Taylor passed away at 10:30 a.m. on June 8, 1969, at St. John's Hospital in Santa Monica. He was 57 years old. Ursula was with him when he died. It was a long way from his glamorous days at MGM, when he made more than $50,000 a week and lived on a 113-acre ranch with horses and cattle. In his 35-year run, he was in more than 70 movies and had 2 big TV hits. One of the last real stars of Hollywood's golden age died. On June 11, 1969, Ronald Reagan stood in front of the Church of the Recessional. As he spoke, his voice caught. It was hard for the man who would become president to stay calm as he said goodbye to his friend Robert Taylor. Trump said he was more than just a pretty face. He talked about a man who was good at what he did, valued it, and carried himself with quiet pride. The sound is now kept in the Reagan Presidential Library as a piece of California's politics and Hollywood history because the moment was so powerful. They were friends because they were both conservative and liked old Hollywood movies together. That friendship followed Reagan into his political career. In his tribute, Reagan said that Taylor was the epitome of honesty in the Midwest. He said that Taylor's death left a void in an industry that was already losing its old guard. There was another tale that Taylor had been there for. On November 19, 1960, he went with Spencer Tracy and James Stewart to bring Clark Gable's body into the church, where he would later be buried. Military honors were part of the funeral, which was very official and well-guarded. It was a rare get-together of MGM's smartest men, who had been competing for parts but had a lot of respect for each other. Taylor's choice as a pallbearer showed how much Gable admired him. He saw a career path that reminded him of his own, from love lead to rugged hero. When Taylor died on June 8, 1969, he was only 57 years old. It was like the end of an era. He worked for MGM for 24 years, which was a record that would never be broken. From the years 1934 to 1958. He had lived longer than famous people like Gable, Tracy, Katharine Hepburn, and Joan Crawford, and he had seen the studio system rise and fall. When he left, the business was moving toward the new wave of Hollywood movies that are directed by women. More Than Just a Man was lost when he died. A system that had built stars from the ground up also went out. For his wife Ursula, the blow was even worse. Just 2 weeks before, on May 26th, she found her son Michael dead from taking too many drugs. 24. Michael had a hard life. He even went to prison for trying to kill his own father. Taylor already had lung cancer and was dying, but Ursula never told him. She planned both funerals by herself and kept herself together for her children who were still alive. Taylor and Michael are now buried next to each other, a quiet memory of the 2 terrible deaths in the family. Taylor was known for having a beautiful profile, but he also had a lot of problems inside. He was crazy about his clothes. He once told Louise Renner that his dream was to own 10 suits that were all perfectly made. They thought they could make up for what he thought was a lack of acting skill. To be honest, he was always looking for parts that would show he was more than just good-looking. Taking on darker parts like Billy the Kid and Johnny Eager in 1941 helped him break out of the leading man mold. He often said that playing was the easiest job in the world and that he was lucky instead of talented. His service in the war showed a whole different side of him. His age was 32 when he joined the Naval Air Reserve. He was eager to go into battle but was told he was too old to serve overseas. He instead spent all of his time making 17 Navy training films, teaching flying, and narrating the combat documentary The Fighting Lady. He wanted to be in danger, but Hollywood kept him in the United States. He stayed involved in politics even after the war. He helped start the Motion Picture Alliance for the Preservation of American Ideals and testified against people he thought were communists in Congress. Because of this, His movies were banned in some parts of Europe, which cost him money. He wouldn't bend, though. Even though there were stories and politics going on around him, Taylor cared most about being loyal. He stayed close with Reagan and was friends with Jack Benny for many years. Even his ex-wife, Barbara Stanwyck, who got some of his money after they split up, came to his funeral. He kept working relationships with directors he trusted, and kept friendships with people like Humphrey Bogart, whose politics were different from his own. At the end of his life, he took over hosting Death Valley Days from Reagan.